What's going on, guys? This is Bryce from CootExpressions.org, and I'm back with another music review. And I find the timing of this review to be appropriate because, we're about a little less than a week out from Christmas now at the time of this recording. And I think that the album that I'm going to be going over today would make for a perfect Christmas gift. It's been out for about a year now. And if you've thought about getting it for someone, I think you probably should. The album that I'm talking about is Unspoken's sophomore album called Follow Through. And of course, I'm going to be reviewing the deluxe edition because that is how I do things. Like I said, this was made back in 2016, so just a year ago by Centricity Music, sorry. And since we're going over the deluxe version, we've got about 14 tracks that we got to cover, so we've got a lot of work to do. Let's start with the first one, Higher. So in this one, the piano kicks off like this soulful, almost not quite funk. It doesn't really hit the funk genre, but it comes kind of close because of the addition of the trumpets, and there's more than just trumpets. It's like they got a whole brass section, but the trumpets really stand out in this, which is a really nice touch, I think. The song is about giving God praise no matter what our situation is, and to make sure we keep none of the praise for ourselves. So make sure we're always giving it to God. We're always making sure that we lift Him higher. I really like the music for this. It's a lot. It's kind of taking that soulful pop description that people have associated Unspoken with, and it kind of amped it up a little bit with the addition of the horns. I love the addition of the horns with this. Track 2 is The Cure. Now, I know that this song is popular with a lot of people. It's a single on the radio, and I like it. It's I think it's got kind of a pop style. Has some weird effects at the start of it, but overall it doesn't hurt the song. One thing that does kind of hurt the song, though, is that the first verse especially is a little bit too monotone for my taste. As far as what the message is, though, it describes how everyone is sick, and by that I mean with sin. We're all spiritually sick, and Jesus is the only one who heals us and fills the void that we have in us. It's very good. The chorus is got a nice feel to it. It's semi bouncy, if that makes sense, but it's a very gradual kind of bounce. So it's like a drawn out kind of a bounce, but it's still got a nice flow to it, even though it's got a nice flow to it. And like I said, this is a single. This is like one of the first singles on the radio, as far as I'm aware of. But I'll talk more about this when I get to what my recommendations are. But that just kind of gives you an idea of how this song is. Track 3 is Open the Clouds. So this one's cool. This one's a fast pace. Kind of feels to me like a 50s or really more 60s, I guess, rock and roll kind of style. Slight elements of soul to it as well, and it's got, not even really soul. It's got more hints of dance and gospel in it, really. Like it definitely feels, especially like with the church organ setting on the on the keyboards or whatever, that kind of organ setting where it's not like a real organ, but it's kind of like almost like a circus organ kind of a thing. That's prevalent here, and that really helps give it the feel of a gospel kind of a song, a southern gospel kind of a song. And it's about anticipating Jesus' return and how, or about the invitation to, or how it's open to everyone, that being sitting at his table. The invitation to sit at his table is open. And of course the imagery of open the clouds because Jesus is going to descend on a cloud and everything, and so heaven is opened up, and that's when Jesus returns. So that's all that kind of imagery that's being used, and it's really different for a lot of what you hear on Christian radio today, which really helps sets it apart. I greatly appreciate it for that, and it's just a fun, quirky little song. I like it. Track 4 is Miracle. And I don't really know how else to describe this except as for acoustic pop, if that makes sense. I think a good comparison to this would be a Building 429 song, Listen to the Sound, where the audio sounds kind of compressed to where it's acoustic, but it's still got that poppy sound to it. The chorus is really bright. Kind of an angelic kind of a feel to it, like it's supposed to be like that kind of a feel, and but it suffers a little bit in my opinion though, because it's just the high notes that get hit in this they're not all bad, but I think some of them are just I could do without them personally. So the song calls us not to give up on miracles, or rather the idea of a miracle occurring for us, the individual, and also encourages us to not lose faith. It's okay. Again, though, the things with the high vocals in the chorus just kind of rub me the wrong way. Track 5 is Life and the Death of Me, so I like this one. They've got bells in this one that go along with different things in the instrumental before the verses, and it's also prevalent in the chorus, which is really cool. It's again, it's kind of your typical Unspoken field where it doesn't really have so much soul in it, but pop is pretty prevalent, and it's it's got, I guess, I'm not really sure how to describe it. I guess kind of a maybe like a little bit of a shuffle feel, but I don't know if that's even really accurate to describe it. I mean, it's got the chorus especially like has like some kind of rhythmic phrasing that I don't know. I'm just having a lot of trouble describing, but I really do like this song. It kind of presents the story of this guy who's dreaming of his own tombstone, and on the tombstone it bears the title of him as a sinner. And so the rest of the song is essentially a prayer for God to change him, and the chorus gives sounds to me anyway like it's using baptism, to symbolize finding life in his death. In other words, like when you go, like typical idea of baptism, how it symbolizes the going down into the water symbolizes their death, and the coming out of it symbolizes the transformation and the new life that we now have in Jesus. So, again, a very good song. I enjoy this one. Track 6 is Soldier. And in this we have it's a similar style, although albeit the lyrics are a little bit more rhythmic in their in their phrasing, and what I mean by that is they have a little bit more of a 16th note feel to them, and it's a marchy feel without being a march, if that makes sense. Like it feels like it could be a slow cadence, but it doesn't have your typical like John Philip Sousa style of march to it. It's not that kind of a song at all. It's a lot slower than that, actually. the singer is describing himself as a soldier, not really in a national military or anything like that, but in a soldier in God's army. And the battle is God's. He is acknowledging, but he's going to keep marching and doing what he's supposed to be doing as a member of God's army. And there's also a shout out in the bridge, with you hear like a few seconds of that old I believe it's a song that's sung often in Sunday school. I never marched in the, or I may never march in the infantry, or whatever the title is. It's that song. You hear that real quick in the bridge right before it goes into the chorus again. Again, song that doesn't have a unique standout to it like some of the rest of the songs on here, but has a very good feel and something that I enjoy listening to. Track 7 is Follow Through, which is one of my more personal favorites of the album. Follow Through is a contemporary rock. The beat is fast in the verses, but like the chorus feels like it's in halftime. And this is one of the few songs, regular version or deluxe, where it's a type of song where it's a communication of us to God. And in this one, the singer's having trouble in life, I'm guessing, but basically some of the struggles that he's going with is he'll be convicted in a moment, then forget all about his conviction, which I can personally relate to in my own life. And so what he is praying for, he prays that God, would help him surrender to God, basically. In other words, I don't want to go back. I don't want to keep forgetting about the things that you keep reminding me about, I want to follow through with what I have committed to you that I'm going to do. So the song speaks to me personally, and I like the feel of the music and everything. It's just a fantastic song. So track 8 then is So Good to Me, and I think probably out of all of them, I would say this one has the most soulful feel to it. Has even got a little bit of a grit to it, if you know what I'm saying. There is a minor bit of, I don't know if it's full-fledged rap or if it's just like a minor hip hop section, but it to me it's a very stark contrast, and I don't really care for that style of music anyway. So it kind of hurts the good thing that the song had going for it. It's a testimony to how good God has been in the singer's life. So if you can get past the rap, hip hop section that's in it, then you might enjoy the song more than I would. Track 9, though, We Are the Light. The tempo is slow, but there's some 30-second notes in this that make it feel a lot faster than what it is. And the bridge actually has a marching snare, and I can tell this because of marching snares, or modern marching snares anyway. There's a difference between marching snare drums and field drums, and marching snare drums have that really high pop to them every time you hit the head with the stick. And when I listen to this, it's if that's not a marching snare drum, then that's got to be some kind of really awkwardly tuned piccolo snare or something. But that to me, that's got to be a marching snare drum. I don't know what else it could be, but it's really cool. So the song calls us to go out into the world, sharing the light of Jesus, and I just a great message. And again, going back to just the song itself, it just has a really nice feel to it in the chorus. I like how they wrote the contrast in the verse and the chorus, and the chorus really is chorus is really well written. It's very memorable. I like it. Track 10, Wait on You. My one minor complaint with this song is I really don't like the clicking that is going on at the beginning, or whatever that is that's happening at the beginning, because that makes my ears bleed, and never put that on your song again. Other than that, though, I love this song. It's again one of the only other songs where it's direct conversation between you and God, or the singer and God, however you want to look at it. And it feel again, it's another song where the beat feels a little bit more driving, but the music is relaxing enough. And that changes a little bit more in the chorus, but it's still kind of that same feel overall. The relaxing part really comes from the chorus, if I can be honest. The song declares, we will wait on God in the midst of troubles, and the bridge reminds us that He's coming back one day. Um, it's just that it's a really good song, one that I could recommend for church groups if you wanted to use that for your worship service. That's this one follow through. Things like that are ones that I would probably more likely recommend, mostly because you probably don't have the resources, or maybe you do, to get some of these other extra things in. But if you're a church that's got a little bit more of a budget that you have to go by, something like this might be more what you would want to use. So that's all the regular tracks. Now we're getting into the deluxe tracks. Sleep in the Storm is track 11, and it has a like a 6/8 triplet kind of a feel to it. The song describes how storms in our life help us grow, so long as we let them actually do that. And it's a really good message and everything. And I've gone back and I've listened to the song again, and I don't think there's as much confusion in it as I originally thought. But I worry, not because of anything that Unspoken did, but because I worry that some people will hear the phrase "sleep in the storm" and think that they can just use that as an excuse to ignore the storms in their life, and that's not really what the song is saying at all. But the song is saying quite the opposite of how about using the storm to that person's advantage to grow in their relationship with God. So that's just the one thing I would want people who listen to it to be cautious of, to not get confused by that. Again, though, not anything that Unspoken did. Track 12, Can't Deny Your Love. It's Latin pop, if I had to describe it as anything. The singer sees God's love in creation. He won't deny what he's seeing, and wants as much of it as he can get. That's basically the gist of the song. I like the risk that they took with the music. I think as far as the music goes, that risk paid off. Not so much in the lyrics, though. I just kind of thought the lyrics dragged the song down a little bit more. So I really hope that they try this style of music again, maybe with just better lyrics, or at the very least better vocalization, in the sense of maybe the lyrics themselves aren't bad, but how they are sung and things like that. That's really more what I'm talking about. Just do that better. But the rest of the music is actually pretty good. Track 13 is Roots. Roots starts with piano and a light bass, and I think that's an African chant in there. I'm not entirely sure. It's your typical pop sound. It actually kind of reminds me of For King and Country a little bit. The song is about how our foundation, or our roots, get it, are in Jesus. And it's knowing that is important for what we do and what we face in life. So, again, pretty good. And the final track that we're going to be taking a look at is Solid Rock. And it says, Well, it doesn't say on the album cover, but I've seen elsewhere that it's an acoustic version of Solid Rock, and that got me curious. And I'm not entirely sure if this is accurate, but I've heard I've heard rumors that Solid Rock was on one of Unspoken's EPs before, which I didn't even know existed before they ever released their self-titled album. So somebody can correct me on that, but I didn't even know that these EPs ever existed. I thought their self-titled was the very first thing that they ever did, but apparently I was wrong. As for the song itself, it's the last of the what I call intimate songs. You know, the songs where you have more direct communication between the singer and God, and it's the only one of the deluxe tracks that does this. There's barely any drums in it at all, so I guess you could say it's technically more intimate than the other ones in that sense. But if it's an acoustic version of this song, then maybe there was originally drums in it. I honestly couldn't tell you. It's about a testimony of what God has done in the singer's life, specifically about transformation and protection. So again, it fits the theme that's kind of been established already in the main album about transformation and, to a degree, how God protects us through troubles in life. So yeah, I guess it actually does fit both things. So it's while it's good, I thought it was a little bit of a weak closer because, Wait on You was so good, and that's the regular album closer. And compared to this one just feels a lot weaker to that song. But, that's just my opinion. So that's all the tracks. This album is a worthy sequel to the group's debut, I believe. Like I said earlier, they keep the what other reviewers have called their soulful pop album, and looking back on it now, I guess that's a fair description of it. I'm not very familiar with soul music myself, so I really wasn't sure how to describe it. I think it is a fair description though, and in songs like "So Good to Me" and some of the other ones, I hear that soul a little bit more now, and I can even go back and listen to their first albums. Like, oh, okay, I get that. I get that. And not only do they keep the soulful pop feel, but they add all the extra elements to it. Like the horns and higher, the just the or the bells and Life in the Death of Me, or the really the interesting styles like in Open the Clouds and We Are the Light and stuff like that, or even Can't Deny Your Love. It's very, very nice diversity in music. That having been said, though, even though there's a bunch of good things musically, I think I do have a little bit of a problem with some of the structure and presentation, in the sense that I feel like there was an overload of songs that have kind of a fast background feel to them, or just a generic fast background, but a softer, slow melody. And in that regard, there was way too much of that on this album. I don't hate the album by any means. It's a very minor nitpick in my opinion, but to me, I think it could have used more songs like Follow Through and Wait on You, or even songs that had, I guess, like Open the Clouds, in the sense where it's a fast tempo, but the lyrics themselves are sung at a fast pace as opposed to a counter melody feel. So, I again, that's minor nitpick. I would have tried to structure that a little bit differently, which probably would mean some of those songs probably would have gotten put on the back burner for a future album, if it were me. But that's just one little thing I have to say about it. And again, though, personally, I think I'm gonna give this my rating for this as the deluxe album itself. But I personally, if I were just reviewing the regular album, I would probably actually give it a higher score than what I'm going to give it. But I'm going to give it a 4.4 out of 5. I think that's pretty fair. I just, I don't hate the deluxe tracks by any means, but I think overall I think they did not add anything. At the very least, they did not add anything to the main album. I won't. I'll be nice and say that they didn't drag it down like I used to think that, but um, it just did not add anything overall to the main album. The main album itself, I thought was incredibly solid. The main album itself was actually, I think, was superior to their debut, and would have been a very good and is in its own way a very good next block for Unspoken to continue their journey on. It's a very very enjoyable album. But since I am reviewing the deluxe album and I didn't care for the deluxe tracks overall, that is why I'm giving it the rating that I am giving it. And I know I'm running short on time, so let me quickly go through my favorites. There's so many favorites to go through. Higher, Open the Clouds, Life and the Death of Me, Follow Through, We Are the Light, and We Will Wait. Yes, I literally have about 7 or so favorites off of this album. That's just literally how much I enjoy all of those songs. And I also have a couple of second tier recommendations. I have The Cure and Soldier. And I know I talked about this earlier when I mentioned The Cure. This is a single, so you would think it should be in my favorites, but I don't know. There's just, while I do very much enjoy the song, and I do not think it's a bad song by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that part of what hurts it for me is just the fact that it seems too predictable to be a single. There's just elements about it that just make it feel just too much like they were trying to push for this to be a single. To me, a good song is something that surprises you. And The Cure, while a very solid, very good song, very fun to listen to and sing along with or play drums to even, I just felt was really more on the predictable nature, and that kind of hurt it with me. But I do still recommend it, and that's just kind of my reasoning behind that. But anyway, I think I have rambled on long enough, so I'm going to go ahead and end this review. Let me just go ahead and say the next music review that I have scheduled is Happy by Matthew West. That's his very first one. We're going to start getting into Matthew West, and I'm going to try to figure out where I'm going to take the music reviews from here, because we've been kind of going through some of the more popular artists of the golden age, and I want to continue to introduce you to their music, but I also want to make sure I cover other artists from that time period as well as beforehand, and some more modern artists, because I don't want to exclude modern artists, because that's what's in the market today, and you all need to know if their songs are any good or not. So I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit more. But that having been said, I would also like to hear from all of you. If you have any albums that you want me to review, any artists in particular that you want me to look at, review an album, send me a shout out and I'll look it over, and maybe I can work something out where I go ahead and do what your request is. We'll just see how it plays out. But again, as I said in the last review, I want this channel to become more involved with the people who listen to it, especially the people who are subscribed to the channel. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. And I'll just end this off as I always do. May the Lord bless you and keep you. And as always, please take care.